Hey everyone. Today we are going to be continuing to work with Python Turtle, but we're going to be learning about how to define functions to create, you know, um, a series of instructions that we want to repeat over and over again. Functions are like loops, but not like loops at the same time. But let's jump into it. So first things first, we need to import the turtle library. And some of the things we're going to work with today are going to require us to also use the random library. I'll show you why in just a few. But let's go ahead, create a background really quick. So turtle.turtle. Oh, wait, sorry, not turtle, screen. Remember, if you want to change that background color, you can change it to anything. So BG color, change it to orange. Click run. Misspell orange. And there we go. So we are going to need a turtle. We'll call it Vargas. So Vargas is equal to turtle.turtle. So what do I want this turtle to do? I think what I'm going to do is first create a function that is going to move this turtle to random spots on this screen here and stamp the shape of the turtle. So go ahead and change the shape of Vargas really quick for a second to turtle. So in order to define a function, we use def. And you have to then create the name of what you want this function to do. I want it to be called move random. And in order to create a function, you need to tell it what variables it is expecting. So the only variable that my function here is going to need is the actual turtle that's going to do the movements. The function's just going to tell it the instructions. We will then call it later on with the specific turtle that we will want to move. So I'm going to use a variable called turtle, or you know what, just t. And this is any turtle. I'll show you what I mean in just a few. But I'm creating a function called move random, and it's receiving a turtle. What that turtle is going to do is first pick its pen up so that we stop drawing for a second. And then I'm going to set its x coordinate to be a random.randint integer, anywhere from negative 200 to positive 200. Then I'm going to do the same thing for its y. So set y random.randint negative 200 comma 200. And as soon as I get that turtle in that new spot, I'm going to tell it to put its pen down. And that is all that I want this function to do. It's just going to move a random turtle to a random spot on the screen. Now, in order to call the function, I need to call it by its name. So move random. And when I call the function, I have to give it a variable that I have created. So the turtle I've actually created was called Vargas. So if I click run, we see that Vargas has moved over here. Let's run it one more time. If I keep clicking run, you'll see it keeps going to random spots. So when creating a function, you tell it what variables it's expecting. And whatever variable it's going to get, it's going to follow these set of instructions. And these are the instructions for what is called move random. And so when I called move random, I had to give it a turtle that was actually already existing, which was Vargas. So what else can we do with functions? Well, if I wanted this function to occur multiple times, I could say something for like 4x in range 10. I'm adding in some code here. I'm going to move Vargas. And then if I want to just add something else to that, I can tell Vargas to then stamp its image onto the screen. So I created a for loop that's going to run 10 times, and it's going to do this function 10 times and then stamp an image throughout the screen. So let's see what happens. So it's stamped, we will see 10 different turtles pop up onto the screen here. So functions can be a very powerful thing. You can tell any set of instructions that you want and then use them over and over. So functions are like loops, but very different than loops. They are like loops because it can repeat a series of instructions over and over, but you would need to call it each time. So if you wanted a function to happen multiple times, you would still need a loop to loop that function. So let's go ahead and just kind of reset Vargas as soon as he's done stamping these 10 things. So what are we going to do next? What I want to do is I want to create a spiral. Now, I'm going to create a function here. So I'm using def, and I'm going to call my variable make spiral. Now, in order to make a spiral, there's a few things that I'm going to need here. One is going to be a turtle. Two is going to be some sort of length for like each of the sides of the spiral. Because it's a spiral, we're assuming that it's making some sort of turn, so it's got to have some sort of angle. And we're going to need to tell it a certain number of iterations for how long do we want the spiral to continue. So let's see here. In order for this to happen, what do I want to occur? Well, I know that I'm going to be repeating something in general. So I'm going to create a for loop with inside this function. And I'm just going to say for x in range. I'm going to say iteration here because the user is going to tell us, iterations. The user is going to tell us how many times, or we're going to enter how many times we want it to make that spiral go around each side. And so I'm creating a for loop for going around and around and around and around. So don't forget your colon at the end of that for loop. And in order to make a spiral, all I would need to do is tell my turtle to move forward, whatever the length is. And then I would need to tell my turtle to turn to a side. So I'm going to tell it to turn left. And I'm going to tell it whatever angle I want it to turn. And because spirals get like either smaller or bigger, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell the length to increase by 1. So let's see. Let's see what happens. That is my function. For however many iterations there are, Just go forward, turn a little bit, increase the length. Now, if I click run at the moment, I did that to 10 before. Let's change this to 3 to make it much shorter. 1, 2, 3. All right, so notice the turtles disappeared. That's what happened when I had reset my screen. And I have made the definition for make a spiral. I clicked run, but no spirals occurring. Creating a function is distinctly different than calling a function. I created the function make spiral, but I have not yet told the computer to actually use it. In order to do that, I need to say make spiral, and then I need to tell it a few things because of the way I defined it. It needs a turtle, a length, an angle, and a number of iterations. So down here in make spiral, our turtle was called Vargas, and I want Vargas to start out with a size of, let's say, 20. And then it's going to make a 90-degree turn, and I want it to do this 15 times. So let's see what happens. Making my stamps. Notice it starts to make a spiral here. If I were to change some of these numbers, I'm only going to make one turtle up here just to save time. But if I increase it instead of by 1 for the length, if I increase it to 10 here on line 26, now I click run. Notice the spiral makes much larger lengths each time. It increases by 10 each time it runs. And the 15 was the number of times it went forward and turned. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 line segments were drawn. So the 15 was the number of iterations. It was making a 90-degree turn here, which was the 90 I gave it. The length started out as 20. I could have started the length out at, let's say, 1, and you would see that at the very beginning, it just makes a much smaller little tick mark right there. Now, what if I didn't want it to be a square? Well, I could give it a different angle to turn. I could tell it to turn 30 degrees. And if I look at the spiral now, it looks entirely different because it has a different angle. I could even do something kind of cool, and instead of 90, I could do 91 degrees, and it's going to make more of a like slanted square. So not really a square, but a slanted square spiral. So I was able to do that using a function. Now here, sometimes you want to add a little bit more to your function. What I want to do is I want to create it so that each of those line segments can be a different color. So I'm going to add into the code here a color list. So square brackets, let's just give it a few colors: red, purple, blue, green, yellow. Give it a few colors. Now, if I want this definition of make a spiral to include these colors, well, what am I going to need to do here? I'm going to need to tell the function, hey, you need to take in this list of colors. prior to this. Or, you know what? What I'm going to do, better yet, I'm going to create a function that is just going to change the color of a turtle. So what would that need? It would need to know the turtle that it's changing the color of. It's going to need some sort of colors to choose from. And depending on how you want to do this, we can come up with some sort of num color for where it is in that list. And I could just say, hey, that turtle, make it change its color to be something from this list of colors. And we're going to give it the index number of a particular color. So I am going to be using this function that I just created called change colors inside of make spiral. So what will I need? In this function, it had a turtle, colors, and a num color. This function has a turtle, length, angles, and iterations. Well, if I'm going to use this function inside of that one, it will also need colors and some num color. So what do I want to happen? I want it to make a line segment, to turn, to increase that length, and then after it increases the length, so now I'm down here inside of this for loop, so that is 2 levels of indentation, 1, 2. I want to make the colors change. So what am I going to do? I'm going to change color. I'm calling that function that I had on line 24, and it is going to need whatever turtle I have in here, whatever my list of colors are, and whatever my num color is. Which reminds me, what I should do up here is let's create a variable called, let's just call it double X. Not sure what I wanted to call it. I'm gonna just call it double X, right? So I changed the color inside of this function. Well, once I do that, I want to change it for the next time. So if I wanted it to be a random color, I could just say num color is equal to random dot rand int 0, 7. Let's see what happens if I click run. Oh, we get an error. Takes exactly 6 arguments, but 4 were given on line 37. So on line 37, oh, okay, yes, this makes sense. It expects 6 arguments because now when we make a spiral, it needs a turtle, a length, an angle, an iteration, colors, and num color. And I only gave it 4 out of those 6 things. So the colors is coming from that list of colors we made above. And the num color at the moment, well, that's what I'm going to use as double X up here. So XX. Click run, see the results. So, we ran into an error. The list index out of range on line 26. Oh, you know what happened here? I'm so sorry. I put 7, but I only had 6 numbers, right? So actually these are index numbers, so that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, am I forgetting a color? One, two, three, four. What's the other color that I would need here? Oh well, I got 5 colors, so we're going to go from 0 to 4. My colors are doing it at random calling here. Now, instead of having it change the colors randomly, if I wanted to go through that list in order, I'm going to put a hashtag here to comment that out. But if I wanted it to go in order of however I listed my colors up here, what I could do is I could just say, hey, have that num color increase by 1. And that can just continue as long as that if num color is equal to the length of the, the length of whatever our list of colors is, then just set it back to 0. So let's see what happens now. Instead of doing a random assortment, it's going to go in the same pattern. It looks like it went red, purple, blue, green, yellow. Red, purple, blue, green. Next one would have been yellow. So that is how I can use definitions to make not only like random positions, different colors, spirals. We can do a few other things as well with functions. So let's go ahead and just reset Vargas really quick, put him back in his place. And for this next one, I'm going to be using several functions to build a checkered board. So my end goal is to create a checkered board. Checkered boards go what? Black, non-colored, black, non-colored, black, non-colored. I guess mine's gonna have a orange background, so like black, orange, black, orange, black, orange. In order to make a chessboard, well, first do ourselves a favor, and we're gonna change the speed. This may take a little bit of time, but I'm going to create a function, and I want it to be called make a square. And in order to make a square, all I need is some sort of turtle and some sort of length. And in order to make a square, if I wanted that square to be black, let's say, so let's go up a line for a second. Not only am I changing Vargas's speed, we are going to change Vargas's fill color to be black. So in this make a square, I want to make a black square. So it needs to be filled in. So I'm first going to start with t dot begin fill. Sorry, my cat meowing distracted me for a second. And how do we make a square? I could use a for loop for x in range 4, because there's 4 sides. Just tell that turtle to move forward whatever length we have, and then tell it to turn to the left or right 90 degrees, and that makes the square. And then I'm going to tell it to end the fill. Now I am going to call the function make a square, and I'm going to give it Vargas, and I'm going to tell it to make a square of size 50, let's say. So here was our stuff from before. I made a square. Perfect. Now, in order to make a chess board or checkered board, I need this black square to then be followed up by a orange square right next to it here. And then it's going to go black again, orange, black, orange. So now that I know how to make a square, I'm going to figure out how to use a function to create a black square with a orange square built in next to it. So I'm going to delete this line for a second. And now I'm going to create a function, and it's going to go be called black orange. My background's orange. And I still need it to know that it needs a turtle and some sort of length. So what is this function going to do? First, it's going to make a square using that turtle and length. And then I'm just tell my turtle to pick its pen up, because from where it's at right now, I just want it to move to this corner and then move that same length forward one more time without drawing a line right here. So I picked my pen up. I'm going to tell it to go forward that length of the square times 2. The reason why times 2, because it has to go the black side and the orange side. And then I am going to put the pen down. So let me just change this up here to 5, so that takes less time. Mind you, I created the function. I didn't call the function. It's not doing anything. Mistake. Shame on me. But if I now call black orange and I say, hey, tell Vargas to make squares that are size 25 here, notice I made a square, it filled in, I picked my pen up, I moved forward 1 length, 2 lengths, I put my pen back down. In order to make a checkered square, I would just now go black, orange, black, orange, black, orange. So it seems like I am now able to repeat these 2 instructions to make a row. So I'm going to delete this line for a second, and I'm going to define on how to make a row. I'm going to call it row. And in order to make a row, I just need a turtle and some sort of length. So what happens with a row? Well, a checkered board has 8 squares in it. So it would be black, orange, black, orange, black, orange. So if I already know how to make a black, orange, I just got to repeat that 4 times. So I'm going to say for x in range 4, I'm going to tell it to make black, orange using whatever turtle it has and whatever length we're going to give it. So what happens if I call row this time and give it Vargas and a length of 25? Cool. It repeated it 4 times. Black, orange, black, orange, black, orange. Now, this row was being made starting at the left corner here, bottom left corner of one of these squares facing the right. If I want to use those same instructions for that row, where it like has to move forward, then turn left, and move forward and turn left, I would need this arrow right now to move up not only to the top right corner right here of that orange square, but then to move up to the next corner, which would be the black square right here. And if the directions right now say move forward, then turn left, well, forward and left, I would need that arrow pointing to the left of the screen here. So from where that arrow is, I need it to go up, up, and then be facing the left at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another function here for a second. And yes, I'm creating a bunch of functions, but it's to show you that I can create them as I need them, and you will see how they become very powerful in just a minute. But I'm creating the definition, and I'm going to call it move1. I'm just trying to make a certain type of movement in this. So what do I need it to have? It needs to have a turtle and some sort of length. And these are all the same turtles in length in these functions so far. So in order to do that, one, we're going to tell it to pick its pin up to stop drawing. We're going to tell it to turn to the left 90 degrees. We're going to tell it to move forward 2 times length. Once we're at that top, we will be ready then to we gotta turn to that left one more time, and then we're gonna put our pen down. Oh, silly me, I forgot to do this again. So what do I want? This time I'm gonna call row, give it length 25, and let's just see what happens if I then call move 1 right after, and I still tell it to use Vargas and have a length of 25. Makes the first row. Now I'm up here facing towards the right. So if my instructions were clear enough, if I tell it to make another row using Vargas and 25, hopefully it's going to start making this checkered pattern the way that we know it to look. Look at that. That's sweet. Sorry, I get excited about these things. But if I now wanted to just repeat these instructions to repeat these 2 rows over and over and over again, well, I would just need to figure out how to get it so that it would follow the same instructions for this first row. Remember, we started out facing the right. Right now I'm facing the left. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one more function really quick. I'm going to call this move2. It just needs to have some sort of turtle. You know what? This one only needs a turtle because all it needs to do is turn either left or right 180 degrees. And so if I come down here and I call move2 and I give it just Vargas, we will see that that arrow at the very end will be facing to the right. Check that out. And now because I have a set of instructions that made the first 2 rows of a checkerboard, in order to finish it, I would just need to repeat these instructions 4 more times. So here, these 4 lines of code, I want to repeat them 4 times. So I'm going to say for x in range of 4. And I'm going to just make sure all of these indentions match up for a second. I click run, we will see an entire checkerboard start to be made. So functions are great. You are going to use them in today's assignments or this week's assignments to try to just create images where your task is to try to use functions to break down particular movements, right? That you know that you're going to be repeating over and over and over again. So that finishes this video. Go into REPL, complete the 3 assignments that follow with this lesson. Have a good one.